Hey guys, welcome to this little extra episode. I would love to introduce you to a phenomenal studio workhorse. Those of you who have come to the studio for classes have seen my rolling mill. Those of you, my budding metalsmiths, I'm sure have seen rolling mills, have heard about rolling mills and are wondering, what is a rolling mill? This rolling mill is such a wonderful studio workhorse for me. I then have to have another way to process that ingot. While that ingot can be forged, the quickest way to get the metal down to the format that you will need it to make what you're making is a rolling mill. Now, rolling mills come in different sizes, and sky's the limit with price. The rolling mill that I chose has a small footprint, and it does a little bit of everything for me. I have half-round rollers on my rolling mill. I also have 5 different sizes of square rollers on my rolling mill, and I have 1.5 inches of flat roller space on my rolling mill. My rolling mill was a combination of size and price point for me, and my rolling mill does a lot of things for me. The one thing I lament over is I wish I had more flat roller space, but I don't, and I would buy this small footprint rolling mill over again. He's such a great little studio workhorse for me. So I will demonstrate with this wire ingot that I've poured. And I'm not going to take it all the way to what this one looks like, but this wire in my left hand started out as the ingot in my right. And I will continue to work this one down, but let me show you real quick how I will use the rolling mill to roll this big chunky ingot into a more usable size and format for the wonderful shiny things that I want to make. Now, some metalsmiths and jewelers with 50 years behind the bench may not have to do this next part. They may be able to eyeball it. I'm going to teach you to do it the way that I do it. And the way that I do it, no matter what I'm putting through the rolling mill, is I want to find where there's even pressure between the rollers so that I know how much to crank down the rollers. Because cranking them down too much will stress the gears inside the rolling mill. And again, I want this to provide me reliable service when I call upon it to use it. So I will open the jaws all the way, or I'll open the jaws so that I could fit whatever I'm putting through there. So I'm choosing to use my square rollers today. So I'm going to put my stock through and make sure that you put it through all the way. So you'll see my stock peeks out on the other side. I then turn the rollers down. I tighten the rollers until I have a little bit of resistance. When I have a little bit of resistance, now I don't use the gauges here. You most certainly can. I use a little piece of masking tape as my point of reference. So I have a little bit of resistance here. So what I will do is I will undo the rolling mill one full turn. So I'm going to end up back here, and I will take my stock out and I will turn it back a full turn. So this is my 0. This is even pressure with whatever is going through the rolling mill in the rollers. So here's my reference point. So from the 0, I will crank down in 15-minute increments. So I'm at about 25 after here. So 25, 30, 35, 40. Now I'm ready to roll. You should never have to hulk this around. You should have some healthy resistance, but you should never have to churn this. I'd rather you have to go another round and tighten the rollers down one more round than over-tighten it too much, and you either warp whatever is going through there or you stress the gears. All right, so you're not going to see much change here, but it's starting. So now I'll turn another 15 and put this through again. And I'm going to turn another 15. Now what you will not see in this video, when we just talked about it in our last lesson, I cannot continue to roll this through the rolling mill until it gets down to my desired gauge. I have to take a break and I have to anneal this ingot to relax the molecules out again. I'm not going to take the time to do that today, but I wanted to tell you for gold, I have to do it at least every 1 roll. Sometimes I stretch it to 2 rolls. I'll roll my ingot through twice, and then I'll go in and anneal it, get it soft and ready to go again, roll it through another couple of times, and anneal it. What will happen if you don't do that, your metal will become brittle and your metal will start to splinter. I don't want that. Now really, I would go to the torch, I would go to my bench, and I would anneal this with the brushy part of the flame, quench it, dry it so nothing wet goes through the rolling mill, and I would bring it back, and I would keep rolling until I get my desired. So I've reached the limit on this size wire gauge, so I would then put it through the next smaller wire cavity and start to roll down 1 gauge smaller. And here you'll really see it start to come together. So it's a bit of a process, so kind of find the meditation in it. And here you'll start to see what's happening to the ingot that we just poured and started to roll. I don't want to roll too much more because I need to anneal it, and you'll see this is what it starts to roll down to. So I'm going to have a whole mess of square wire here, which I love to work with. So this is a technical way that I use my rolling mill. Now, hey, I also did not have to put the wire, or I did not have to put my ingot through the wire rollers. As I mentioned, I have half round rollers and square rollers. If I wanted to, I could put this through, the flat roller space here. Depends how you want to move your metal. If you want to make it into wire, then you use the wire cavities. If you want to start to roll it flatter, then here's what I start to get. All right, I'm not going to roll this anymore because it's screaming to me that it really needs to be annealed. But you can start to see, I can roll this. I don't have to roll it into square wire. I can also start to roll it flat and move my metal that way. All right, so these are some of the technical ways that I use the rolling mill. Or if I need to draw wire down from 10 gauge to 14 gauge, then I can start to draw it down in my rolling mill to the size that I need. You can also use things that you find. This was some packing material that was in one of my incoming shipments here, and I thought, gee, that might look really cool through the rolling mill. And the effect that I'll get is where the cardboard or the paper will make a matte spot on the stock, and where the metal touches the rollers in between all the little vacant honeycomb spaces will be shiny. So this is really cool. You could put lace, fabric, burlap, I mean really anything. A manila folder with some holes poked through it with the torch looks really cool. You get a really cool effect. Really anything can go through the rolling mill. I mean almost anything. Okay, so finding your zero here is just as important so that I know how much to crank down the rollers, because more pressure is not more better. So I'm going to use this little piece of paper here as my little demo. And I'm going to put the paper, which obviously is not too thick, and I'm going to put the metal through, and you'll see the metal poking out on the other side. And I will do the same thing we just did in finding my zero for the ingot. Tighten, 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 until I have a little bit of resistance. So I have a resistance at 11 o'clock. Then I will go ahead and undo a full turn. And I will go ahead and redo the full turn. So this is where there's even pressure with the rollers with all of my things through it. Now I'm only texturing one side. Again, no laws here except don't put anything wet through the rolling mill and don't crank it down too much. But I can also sandwich. I could sandwich something on the top and the bottom if I wanted to texture both sides. That's cool too. All right, so I'm ready if you're ready. Let's go ahead and roll it. All right. Oh, I need to tighten down my 5, 10, 15. And let's do it this way. Here we go. I'm going to roll it on through. Make sure you guide your material through. This may not wow you, but I think it's kind of cool. So the paper through the rolling mill has given me this really cool, subtle texture, and where the rollers have touched the bare metal is shiny. It also has spread this a little bit, but how cool for something that came in a parcel to be able to put texture and have it play with the light and give it some life. Well, I think this to this is super cool. So the rolling mill is a wonderful little workhorse in the studio. It's a big day when you get your rolling mill. It allows you to do fun, artful things like texture on your pieces, but it's also such a technical workhorse for me to be able to work my material, recycle, reclaim, and upcycle my material or my client's material to turn it into some other usable form.